how you doing? Are you subscribed? I don't think you are. It doesn't say that um, on the picture right here. But hey, I'll tell you what else. You should subscribe because you can help me ruin my life by getting me to drink hot sauce if I get to 10,000 subscribers, which you should make me do. And um, I heard you guys like to watch me game. It's on this poll. I don't know. It's on this poll. So I mean, might as well, throw it in there. Twitch is twitch.tv. I mean, twitch.tv/Lotus Abbey. And yeah, let's get to it. I'll play every game, and hopefully you have fun watching any video that's about to play. So let's roll the clip. And okay, so yeah, hi, what's up? And we're looking at Woman Who Made History by Sarcastic Productions. I know I'm kind of late to the party for Women's History Month with videos like this, but we're gonna watch it anyway. It's fine. We always love Sarcastic Productions on this channel, so let's get into it. And yeah. Play.
Women make history every single day, and have been doing so for thousands of years. Well before the modern feminist movements began in the 1800s, history is brimming with inspiring women whose achievements broke down boundaries and paved the way for more women to kick ass and do their thing. To that end, OSP is partnering with the Woman Cards to create a deck of playing cards featuring 13 of the most remarkable women in history.
Ooh, this is gonna be kind of fun.
We've got scholars, saints, warriors, and queens from all across time and around the world. The artwork is spectacular, and you can get your very own History Makers deck via the link below to the project's Kickstarter. OSP will be donating our cut of the revenue to the Malala Fund, helping girls around the world get the best education possible. So, to celebrate the 13 incredible figures in this deck in rapid-fire fashion, let's do some women's history. We'll start in Japan in the late 1100s, where rival families fought for military dominance. Both the Taira and Minamoto clans commanded vast armies of samurai, but fighting alongside them were female warriors trained in sword fighting, horse riding, and...
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about this female samurai, yeah. I will say, this is really good.
Archery known as onamusha, the most famous of which was Tomoe Gosen. Hailed as a warrior worth 1,000, ready to confront a demon or a god, Tomoe was among the most fearsome generals of the war, commanding 300 samurai in battle against the Taira clan and, later, against her master's cousin, the future shogun. Bad news for Tomoe, but in centuries following, her valor became legendary. Ancient India in the Vedic period was a time when the core scripture...
Okay, that's always good. Love to see the samurais. And I know he's going to have to talk about Joan of Arc. Honestly, gonna have to.
Of Indian culture were debated and codified, and one contributor was Gargiva Chaknavi. Herself the daughter of a sage, she was intellectually curious from a young age and later wrote hymns for the Rigveda, which is best known from a story in the Upanishads where she took part in a philosophical debate organized by the local king. Yajnavalkya challenged his fellow sages on the topics of Atman and the universe, and not only was Gargi the only woman present, she was one of the few brave enough to argue with him and the only one who could debate him to a draw, earning high praise for both her brilliance and her tenacity. In 267 AD,
that's interesting.
The widow of a local king became the most powerful woman in the world. When Queen Zenobia of Palmyra took over from her assassinated husband, her once small state...
Yep, we watched a whole video on that when she took over for her husband, and they were arguing. Basically, they were arguing and also fought a war over it, so yeah.
At the edge of Roman Syria was in charge of protecting the entire east of Rome from the Sassanid Persians. Despite the enormity of the task, Rome's peril was Zenobia's gain, as her rule was stable, prosperous, and culturally rich, while her soft power over Egypt and Anatolia led to full annexation in 270 and the creation of a Palmyrene Empire. But soon, Rome got its act together, reconquering Palmyra and taking Zenobia to Rome as prisoner, where she spent the rest of her life, smug in the knowledge that, however briefly, she beat Rome at its own game. The most famous queen of Egypt's new kingdom began her reign as merely the regent to her dead husband's infant heir, but soon Queen Hatshepsut cited her own royal lineage to justify proclaiming herself as pharaoh. From there, she wasted no time bringing Egypt to new heights. After launching trade expeditions down the coast of Africa to the land of Punt and re-establishing links with the Levant, her massive piles of gold found use in hundreds of construction projects across Egypt, restoring and embellishing existing temples while building brand new ones too, including the most ornate mortuary temple any pharaoh had yet built. Although her successors tried to wipe all records of her reign, her accomplishments were just so massive that they'd speak for themselves no matter what.
See, that's the type of impact that you kind of want to leave on the world, you know? It's like, it doesn't matter how much the world will try to erase your impact. Literally, I mean, how much, scholars and stuff will try to erase your impact. Nah, they really can't do it.
Medieval monasteries were often centers of scholarship, but few monks could compete with the raw genius of the German Benedictine abbess Hildegard von Bingen. This turbo polymath was a writer, philosopher, natural scientist, medical scientist, theologian, and, most famously, the most prolific composer of monophonic chant in the entire medieval period. Hildegard wrote treatises on whatever she could and made 3 full illuminated manuscripts.
I know you guys just seen that picture, like, in the last part. I'm not gonna go back to it. It was like he had three children come out of her mouth. It's like, what the heck was that?
Scripts depicting the divine visions she received throughout her life. Beyond her immense work in the convent, Hildegard preached about church reform all across Germany. Little surprise she was later canonized as a saint. In the centuries before the Golden Age of Athens and the corresponding explosion of classical Greek literature, the main genre of
Sappho was amazing. If you're talking about, literally, you're talking about who I know you're talking about. And I think we all know who you're talking about. I have a separate playlist with, like, certain videos from, well, at least one video from Sappho and then another few videos in that, like, playlist. It's like it's a pretty good playlist, but yeah.
poetry was lyric. With an instrument in hand and a tune to sing, poets told stories about whatever they wanted, and the greatest poet, named Sappho, wanted nothing more than to hang out with all the pretty people. Born on the Aegean island of Lesbos, Sappho grew to pan-Hellenic prominence thanks to her captivating poetry about the visceral experience of love. Despite her being praised as the 10th muse, the cruel march of time and the fading of collective memory left us with tragically little of her work or even the slightest details of her life. Still, what we do have is masterful. In the Golden Age,
all of the poems are masterful. I guess I can go back and read it. Let's see. Get to that point. Yep, he seems to me equal to the gods. That man whose opposite you sits and listens close to your sweet speaking and lovely laughing. Oh, it puts the heart in my chest on wings. For when I look at you, a moment, then no speaking is left in me. No tongue breaks, and thin fire is racing under skin. And in eyes no sight, and drumming fills ears. And cold sweats holds me, shaking grips me all. Greener than grass, I am, and dead. Or almost, I seem to me. That, like, literally, her poems are amazing.
what we do have is masterful. In the Golden Age of Islam, the Andalusian city of Cordova was the capital of a caliphate and an unparalleled hub of culture. Of the over 170 women working as scribes in the court of Al-Hakam II, the most remarkable was his secretary Lubna of Cordova. Coming from humble origins as a Spanish slave, Lubna was renowned for her skill in mathematics and the quality of her poetry, and the caliph entrusted her with the creation of a library in his royal palace, the Medina Azahara. Her library was said to contain hundreds of thousands of manuscripts in Latin, Greek, and Arabic, many sourced from her own travels across Iberia and the Mediterranean. So not only was she brilliant, she had the coolest job ever. In the early 1800s, the most fearsome pirate in the world was Qing Shi. After a humble upbringing in the south of China, she...
Oh yeah, I know a little about a Qing Shi. That's really, I would say this is going to be really cool.
Married a pirate captain in 1801, but when he died in a storm in 1807, she
I love how they drew her too, though.
became the de facto ruler of his pirate confederation, the Red Flag Fleet, commanding 400 ships and tens of thousands of pirates. Qing Shi plundered the British, Portuguese, and Qing dynasties' navies, fighting on the open seas and breaking through fierce blockades. But even when surrendering to the dynasty in 1810, she had enough negotiating leverage to keep her wealth, her ships, and her freedom for an
Wait, what? So she just retired?
astoundingly cushy 3-decade retirement. As the daughter of the Byzantine emperor,
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good deal.
Alexios Komnenos, Princess Anna Komnene had access to the very best education the Eastern Roman Empire could provide.
Isn't this where trying to think of it? Isn't this where Assassin's Creed is supposed to be based on? Like these two?
Even so, she broadened her curriculum by sneaking copies of the Iliad and Odyssey out of the Royal Library of Constantinople. With training fit for an empress, she administered a hospital in the city and attended her father's royal court, getting an up-close view of the politics of the First Crusade. However, a late-coming younger brother took her place as heir, and he banished her to a monastery for trying to supplant him. Begrudgingly trading her crown for a quill, she spent her last decades composing the Alexiad, a masterful epic poem recounting her father's life and reign. Just 2 decades after their arrival into Britannia, Queen Boudica of the Iceni tribe had good reason to hate the Roman Empire. After her husband died in 60 AD, leaving half his kingdom to Boudica and their 2 daughters, Rome ignored his will entirely and confiscated the kingdom, brutalizing Boudica and her daughters in the process. In response to Rome's abject depravity, Boudica led over 100,000 warriors in open revolt, burning Roman cities and killing their citizens as retribution. Although the governor of Britannia defeated her in battle, suppressed her revolt, and established full Roman authority in the province, Boudica has remained a symbol of revolutionary spirit ever since. After
That's good.
the death of her brother the king in 1891, Queen Liliuokalani came to power at a perilous time for the Kingdom of Hawaii.
I would have hated that, like, because I guess you're gonna go over like a time period, but like, 1891, that wasn't a good year for Hawaii when America came and decided that they needed to be liberated from the Queen.
The last king was forced to sign away the monarchy's power to a league of white business tycoons who only wanted Hawaii for its crops, and when the new queen set about restoring royal authority, these same white islanders threw a coup, deposed the monarchy, and invited the United States to annex Hawaii.
Nice. That's exactly what they wanted.
Though decades of legal challenges failed to give Liliuokalani any part of her kingdom back, she left a cultural legacy for her people via her earlier composition of the famous song Aloha Oi and the defiantly titled autobiography Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen. After marrying into the French royal family in 1137, Eleanor of Aquitaine had a subpar experience as queen, so she called a do-over and tried it again in England. Having suffered through the failed Second Crusade and 15 years of heirless marriage to King Louis, Eleanor divorced him and married the soon-to-be King Henry II, combining their territories to form the Angevin Empire. She and Henry weren't a great match either, as she started a revolt and he put her in prison, but
they both were a toxic couple.
But after she outlived him, Eleanor happily served as regent for her beloved son Richard the Lionheart. And that is how you play the long game. Forget the husbands, just be queen. And, of course, we end with Cleopatra. Raised in the cultural capital of the Greek-speaking world, she had the Library of Alexandria on tap and knew all the classics we'd expect, but she differed from her royal Macedonian predecessors by actually learning Egyptian and several other languages. All these smarts and charisma went to good strategic use as Cleopatra leveraged wider Mediterranean conflicts for her own advantage and the good of her kingdom, resulting in a prosperity Egypt hadn't seen for centuries. Unfortunately, her second husband was not a match for her brilliance, so she was outplayed by Rome, losing her kingdom and her life, but not her glory.
Which is always good. And also, because a lot of historians like to say that she was just like a slut or whatever, but it's like, no, she just used her looks to her advantage for the most part. And she was pretty smart. Like she was a very smart ruler, so yeah.
And with that, our 13-stop whirlwind survey of women's history is complete. Despite the vast differences in the times, places, and professions of these figures, each found their own way to pursue excellence. Sometimes uninhibited, sometimes working around constraints, sometimes deliberately thwarted by outside circumstance. But one way or another, the legacies of their genius and talent endured, influencing the world around them and inspiring subsequent generations of women and men to follow their lead. My hope is that at least one of the amazing women in the History Makers deck resonates with you, so please consider getting a deck today. The Kickstarter is live for the month of March, so don't miss out. Link in the description.
Nice. So, that should be good. Yeah, it's no thing this time. Yeah, it's no like thing on the side. So yeah, that was a good video. Talk to you guys in the next video, and yeah, peace.